Hi, it's Ileana here at Awakening Cosmic Reality Show. We have David Lotherington with us today. Welcome, David.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. David is an Akashic reader. He is an intuitive, he's a healer, and he looks into helping people to heal. He also does channeling of ET beings and sometimes dead people on occasion, on a very special occasion. And David is here today to look into the question with me of, does human DNA change into another being that comes in when doing trans channeling? Does the human DNA change into something else or not? I had recently done a DNA testing experiment where I had 2 DNA kits sent to me from Ancestry.ca, and I had done a deep trans channeling of Zagor, the reptilian insectoid hybrid that helps me with a lot of my channeling and also some parts of entity attachment removals. So Zagor basically claimed that he was a 700-year-old male, reptilian insectoid male, and who had been on Earth and other planets like it that are cloned. So his DNA was supposed to have changed into that of South American origin. But when the genetic testing was done, both kits came back as, well, Ileana, half Jewish, 50% Jewish, and the rest European. So because I'm from Ukraine, I have some Poland heritage, Slovakian, Slovenian, and so on. So both tests came back as Ileana, same results. So the question is, why didn't the DNA change? Like, did something happen to it? Is it not supposed to change, or does it just change very temporarily and briefly during the trans channeling, but it doesn't register on the DNA test results? So that's the question for whatever being your team that comes in through David today in the channeling.
All right, so before we begin, I think it'll be good if the viewers know a little bit more about channeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a channeler. That means that I can entrain my vibration to meet that of a being that wishes to be channeled. So in order for a being to be channeled, they have to come through and meet the criteria of my team, which is like guardians for me, the container or the vessel or whatever they wish to call me. And yeah, so as our vibrations meet in between, in the middle, I'm able to speak for them. So that's channeling. So you have a question and we'll see if they have an answer. I'm not sure who's going to come through today, but it'll be interesting to see. I'm really curious. So, and I didn't get a heads up who's coming. So, all right. So, it's just going to take me a moment to get there and then I'll be right back with you. Okay. Greetings. One moment, please. Yes, we are here.
Hello.
Greetings. Hello, how are you?
I am good. And who is here today with us?
We are. Our name sounds familiar to some who are maybe watching this program, but it is not the same. We are Anshar.
Okay, welcome, Anshar. Is there any particular group of the Anshar?
As we stated before, our name is similar, as it is pronounced similar, but we are not the same. We are a different species.
Okay, and where are you coming from?
We are from... We are descendants of a Saturnian race from the planet of Saturn. Now, we have left that place a long time ago, but we are here now to help you with your endeavor.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. I had recently done ancestry DNA testing, The experiment was that when somebody does deep trance channeling and when another being comes in through the channel, the vessel, the DNA supposedly changes into that being and it's supposed to register on the DNA test result, but that didn't happen. So the DNA remained the same as that of the human vessel. So, and a being came in during the channeling. His name is Zagor. He's a reptilian insectoid hybrid. So why didn't the human vessel's DNA change into Zagor?
Well, unless you are a shapeshifter, then it is a natural state to remain in your original format. Now, because of this, there are many things which occur in the system as one channels. It is, as stated before, an entrainment process energetically, which means that the chakras align in balance. And when one chakra is out of balance, this can cause disruptions within the message that is portrayed through the channel. Can you hear us properly?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Our voice is not very loud.
That is okay. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, excellent. Now, when one is channeling, it allows a percentage of energy to flow through the being which is channeling. This percentage of energy comes from the person who is channeling, sending the message to the channel. Now, in this sending of messages, it is a receiving of energy from the channel's we would say side. Now, in this side, their cells, they must expand. This expansion of energy which occurs within the body, this is greatly influenced by galactic genetics. Now, these genetics, if they are of galactic nature, some humans have naturalized DNA, which has more galactic percentages within it, but others do not have such capacities for holding on to such energies. Now, the energies that are held within the DNA, it is affected by channeling, and we would say that DNA holds light, and its ability to hold energy and light is not well known by humans at this time, by the mainstream, we will say. Now, as one channels the information, the energy which enters the system of the channel causes the cells, causes the genetics, and causes the DNA to expand. And as it expands, it radiates outwardly. Now, while you are channeling, if you have friends who are around you while you are channeling, they will feel this energetic field which surrounds them. This energetic field is merely a representation of a small percentage of the energy that is flowing through the channel at this time. And in receiving such energies, it is important to note that some individuals can send tremendous amount of energy through channeling. And in this tremendous amount of energy, it can cause short circuits of digital components that may exist within the technology that you're using at the time.
Mm-hmm. But the DNA itself within the human, it won't register as a change on a genetic test?
Yes, this is true. And the reason is, unless you are a shapeshifter or have such capabilities, we want to say for human understanding that one does not need to be a reptile to shapeshift. There are many species who can do such things, and even those humans who are vibrationally sensitive enough and aware enough, they can change the factor of the genetic profile. Now, the DNA remains the same, but the holographic density and the holographic appearance of what they look like changes. They are still the same genetically, even shapeshifters in the DNA, but it is the ability to oscillate the frequencies within the DNA and the DNA structure, which changes their outwardly appearance.
So what would it take to actually be able to change DNA test results not to be the same?
Well, DNA is a component of you, and your soul actually changes the DNA itself. So, in order to change the DNA of a human adult, this would be difficult. But if one was to be a walk-in, and we know you're familiar with such terms, but for the audience, we would explain. A walk-in is one who decides to come in part way through one's life to finish a contract that was not able to be completed by the previous person in that particular physical body. The individual that left the physical body decided to let go of such karmic lessons and to have another take over for them so that they may pursue this now. Because of such things, they are not able to change the way that the body looks, and they are locked in essentially with someone else's contract. But they have the ability to change the DNA signature within the DNA, as the soul is different, and as this soul enters the body, it can change the genetics within the system.
Okay, so if channelers, for example, were to do the trans-channeling DNA test, and would their DNA remain the same and not change to that of the being that comes in?
Yes, this is true. They would remain as true as they are, and it would be a big issue if they were to change to an insect. If they were channeling an insect, many people would not react well to this.
And the physical DNA change, it wouldn't register on any type of testing?
No, but there are minute changes done to the DNA when a walk-in comes in, as we stated before.
Okay. So really it is when a person is channeling someone, the essence of that being is in the energy of the body that is the vessel, the channeling, and that energy is being emitted, and people around that person, if there's somebody around the channeler, can pick that up.
Yes, as we were stating, there is a field of influence that surrounds the channel as they are channeling. And many people wish to partake in feeling of such energies, as it can change their fields. This field of influence which surrounds the channel can influence the fields of those around the channel. Now, this enhances them in different ways. It helps them to raise their vibration drastically, as they are entraining to the vibrations of the channel without knowing so. Now, in this entrainment, they find themselves vibrating at a similar place and plane that the channel may be at. And because of this, if they have some telepathic ability, it allows them to even hear some of the messages that are coming through from the being that is doing the channeling.
Mm-hmm. So why would Zagor say that if his DNA was to be sequenced and during the channeling, that it would appear to be that of a South American person?
Well, there are many DNAs upon the planet that are naturalized. And by naturalized, we mean DNA of galactics that have been on Earth for such a long time. It has become a natural component, and it has, we are searching for a term, ameliorated, perhaps, is some verbiage we can use, to reduce any characteristics that are out of place with human. Now, we will try to elaborate better because we do not have the proper vocabulary to say what it is that we wish to say. But we would say that the channel has lost track of your question, and we wish you to ask again.
So Zagor claimed that he had visited many human-like planets, like Earth, that are cloned, so that if his DNA was to be tested, it would be that of a South American individual.
Yes.
But that, I guess because I don't, though I embody the frequency and the energy of Zagor, the DNA does not change. So I guess what I'm asking, if Zagor's DNA were to be tested, would it show to be that of South American, like he claimed, if it was to be tested on its own merit?
Yes, the answer is yes to this. Now we would say there is insectoid DNA, which is in the Native American population, and there are other populations on the planet. If you look at humanity itself, from all the races of the colors of beings that live upon the planet, there are red and there are yellow and there are brown and black, and even those that are shades of purple and white. Now, in such coloration differences, there are different genetic lineages which run through the humanity, and as you are composed of several different species, some of this human DNA, which you are claiming that is human, that humans claim that they are human, is actually, they may have a higher percentage of insectoid naturalized DNA within the human component, like these Americans that you are referring to. And some of the Asian population has some Lemurian DNA, which is naturalized in their human component. So it depends on which race, which you are, that has more naturalized DNA. We would say those of the Russian lineage have more naturalized reptilian DNA, and there are others as well.
And how is galactic DNA measured out in space? Because here on Earth, in the current system, we don't have any means of measuring galactic DNA to see how it looks apart from human DNA. So how is it done galactically?
Well, we have many advanced technologies which can scan the etheric fields of the body. Now, for the most part, there are particular, this is not a word, there are particular species of non-terrestrials that have higher, we would say they are like larger batteries. They can store more energy. And this is actually a function that we search for within particular individuals to see if they're suitable for channeling and other exercises which we see that is useful to help us with our exploration of different species on different planets. Now, some species have a high tolerance to hold such energies, and some have very low tolerances. Those with such low tolerances, they tend to not be as psychic, if you wish to use such terminologies. And those with greater energy fluctuation ability, those are of greater psychic ability.
And what would you say is my ability to channel other beings?
Well, this is a complex question, and we would say it is a good ability that you have. You can translate energies, and although there are parts of you that have some blockages, as all channels do, there are some things that you can do, and perhaps we can help you if you're interested to remove some of these blockages to help you so that you may be able to translate your transmissions rather than speak in the language of your comrade.
Yeah, Zagor chooses not to speak in English at all.
Yes, but it is of your influence to choose to be able to translate his language into English. And we understand that you wish to honor him and his perspective and what he desires. But it is your ability to translate what his message is portrayed if you wish to communicate.
So what can I do to remove some of those blockages so I could do better translation of what Zagor is saying?
Well, there are many fields of conditioning that exist within the human mind. Some of these conditioning platforms make us nervous, and they make us fear for what can come through our mouths. Now, when we speak of information that we are not familiar with, we can often stutter or we can stop talking completely. These things that we are experiencing are hiccups within the energetic system and the body. Now, to remove such hiccups, one must know that they exist. Awareness is the most important component to development in any such nature. So it is important that you find these blockages within your system. Now, these blockages for you exist between your heart chakra and your throat chakra. They are moving, we are seeing them now. There are three blockages that we see at this time in your throat and heart, and between this area. It forms something of a triangle, and this triangle can be taken out. It will help you with speaking and translation. It may also help you with the translation of light languages that are in written format or perhaps drawn on paper.
Is that something you can take out right now, or do I need to work on it specifically some way?
It can help you if you wish, but it may take some time.
Um, so should we do it now, or should I just work on it later? I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable.
We are not uncomfortable here. We are quite comfortable.
Okay.
But we want to honor your viewers as well.
Okay. Well, I think it's good to be aware of what's going on with me, and I guess I could work on it later.
Okay, that is understandable, and you can always call for us if you wish.
Okay. Um, so how on earth, if technology was to become available to find out the percentages of galactic DNA that people have that is extraterrestrial, what would that technology look like? If it was to become available on Earth?
Well, such technologies we believe does exist within humanity. There is some understandings of this, although it is rudimentary through this metafactor. It is called they have different terminologies for it, but the X-Men gene, some call it. Now, this X-Men gene or meta gene is an indicator of the amount of energy one can store within the genetic components. Now, you may use the same template that we use to measure that of genetic influence of non-terrestrial races if you wish, as it is a proper format and we have been using it for some thousands of years.
And what is the template? Because currently I cannot just go to any medical clinic and get a blood sample to see how much X-Men or meta gene factor I have in me. So it's not accessible to the public. So what does this template and technology look like?
It is a test of the blood. It looks as if we would explain in such a way that one must create first a piece of machinery that is able to change its frequencies extremely fast. And this is additional to its initial components. We would say the most basic format of this machine is a machine with the ability to emit particular frequencies of different ranges. This is the utmost importance for this machine. Now, the second component of the machine is directed to funnel or amplify the signature of such wavelengths. If one is able to amplify the signatures and then send particular signals to the blood on a petri dish or something like this, we do not want you to try it on the living organism. it would cause damage potentially to the body. So it is important that it is done on a pot that is separate from the container. Now, if you direct these energies to the blood will react in different ways. It must not be coagulated. If the blood is coagulated, it will not be able to vibrate at the similar rate which you are seeking. Now, you must also be able to change the frequencies to alternate frequencies. And depending on how the blood reacts in such circumstances determines the metagene factor.
Okay, and how much of the metagene factor do I have within myself?
Have you been tested by such a machine?
I don't have access to that machine. That's why I'm asking you what you can see.
We would have to run a test upon you, which may take some time, but it is possible.
Okay, can you please run the test?
Yes, of course. One moment, please. You should stay still for the next approximately 10 seconds. Your DNA is populating in the machine. Now the metagene factor is measured on a percentage base level. 100% is 100% ability to absorb energy. This is an impossibility with humans. We would say the Jesus which existed upon your planet was only 60, approximately 50 to 60% of this capability. Your genetic factor is approximately 12 to 14%. Now this is good. Do not measure yourself on a basis of 100% because this would not be good for the psyche. But we would say that 12 to 14%, and most humans operate at approximately 4 or maybe 5%, maybe 6%. So this is a very good metagene factor and one that may be sought out after from some particular groups upon the planet.
Mm-hmm. I've always known that I've had extraterrestrial DNA lineages because of past lives and as extraterrestrials, and that factor does reincarnate with the human body again. In the human vessel, the DNA still comes with you. Is that correct?
As we stated before, the DNA is an imprint of the soul. So where the soul goes, the DNA goes. Although it is different in the physicality which it can take with it, depending on the chemicals which are composed of the fetus and other minerals of the environment that it is composed of. So the physicality changes, but the energetic template of the DNA remains the same from life to life.
Mm-hmm. And what does this machine look like that measures the metagene X-Men genes?
Well, it depends on who creates it. It can take any format, but its functions must remain the same.
What does it look like on your end?
It is not very large. It is only approximately 1 foot wide by 1 foot tall by 3/4 of a foot deep. It is of a triangular shape. Yes, one may say a long triangle. And it is not much that is required to emit such frequencies. It is only a small box for us, but for humans, the device is not required to be large either.
Mm-hmm. So why is this not available to the public on Earth?
People are still wondering, do extraterrestrials exist on Earth? They are still mentally not able to comprehend the concept that it could be possible for such advanced technologies to exist. And although we are not speaking for every one of you, we know that many who are watching such program would be more advanced, aware, and conscious in thoughts and mind. But it is that the majority of humanity operate at a lower level of consciousness and operation of the mind, that they are not able to perceive such notions. Some are not even able to find happiness in their life at all. And some are not even able to talk to their life partners. So how can one expect everyone to be able to understand more advanced concepts in mind?
So it's more just as a protection factor for now, because we're still dealing with being human on Earth.
Well, we have told you how to create such device, and although we have not given you the engineering technical jargon, we will say, on how to create it, we have given you the concept of how to create it. Now that one knows of such ways, one who is listening can create such a device, and then humanity may be ready. We will see.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any wisdom to impart? Anything that you'd like to share?
Yes, there are many things, and such a variety of concepts should be shared with humanity. Much of what you know is different than what it is. And because of false science and false politics, it is upon you to find the truth of such things. Search within yourself for answers when you can. Do not. It is because of such false science that you base your future knowledge on such false science, and to build upon a bridge which is built on unsturdy ground is not wise, as it can tumble and fall. So if you are able to find the truth within yourself and find this inner knowing, then you are able to find a stable foundation to which you can build upon. And once you have the foundation, then you can build much higher than those that are building on unstable ground, as they can only build so high without falling, as the science is incomplete.
Okay, thank you for that wisdom. I appreciate it. And thank you for coming in.
Yes, we are very honored to be here. And if you wish, we can come again.
Okay, thank you. I hope you have a good day, and David may return if he would like to.
Yes, this is very wonderful. And thank you, viewers, for taking the time to view this experience. And please impart such wisdoms upon yourself when moving forward in your development. We want you to find that truth which you seek within yourself. And in finding such truth, you will be able to move forward in your growth and development, so you can find that which you seek. We wish you to have a good day, and goodbye for now.
Goodbye, and good day to you as well.
Hey. It's Dave.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm excited to watch it. I don't really know what he was talking about, but I could catch in a little bit at the very end when he was phasing out of what he was talking about. So
yeah, he was saying that we embody the energy of the being that comes in, and that we can sense the energy, but it doesn't change the DNA of the human body even when channeling happens. It just changes the energy within the body temporarily, but not the genetics themselves. So it allows the channel to be able to connect with the being through the chakra systems. And the energy must be of a good high vibration to translate what the being is saying if he doesn't speak English. So it's like Zagor chooses not to speak English, so I work harder to translate. So, but I have to work on removing some of the blockages in my heart, throat areas. There's a triangular kind of blockage there. So, and I guess I can work on that later because this was kind of to answer questions. And I asked him to measure my meta gene, and he said it's to 14%, which is good for being psychic and such in a channel.
Okay, cool. I've never asked about the metagene factor for myself, but I'm really curious to find out now.
Well, ask him. I guess you can ask him during channeling, right?
Yeah.
Can you channel? Like you channel and ask questions at the same time, or do you need somebody else to ask these questions for you?
Well, it depends how deep I get. If I get really deep, then I can't because I'm not really there. But if there's a phase of channeling that's somewhat like telepathy, where you're kind of in between, you can bounce back and forth. But each time you bounce, you have to change your frequency each time. And you can get, it's not dizzy, but you feel kind of discombobulated after doing that for too much. So I don't often do that.
So how were you feeling when the Anchor species was coming in?
I felt good. I felt really warm, very relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Good. Yeah, well, I asked more than one question as usual. I went off on a tangent of stuff to do with DNA. So very, very interesting answers. He said that we have the tools to build a galactic DNA sequencer to see how much galactic DNA we have, how much of the extraterrestrial genes we have within us that we carry in the soul template that comes in to the human body. It's just, we're still processing being human. So if we were to suddenly discover that you could measure your ET DNA percentages, that would start a whole new paradigm shift, literally, that not everybody might be ready for yet.
I can believe that.
Yeah, so that was kind of like the gist of this channeling experience. So I got everything answered that I was curious about.
Good.
So
I'm really glad that we got some of those questions out. It'll be helpful for some people, and it's really specific content. You know, like how many people will watch specific content, because it's mainly referring to channelers and non-terrestrials. But that in mind, it's specific information, which is what we need. So
yeah, because I mean, I was curious, why did the DNA not change? It's because it doesn't really change during channeling. It's the energy that shifts and phases in and out of different polarity depending on the channel, how much the channel can hold the other being's energy in them as well. So it depends on them too, and their belief systems and frequencies and vibrations. And I mean, and if we want to actually test how much percentage of galactic DNA we have, we need to build different devices to do that, not just the basic blood test in the labs.
Yeah, he was showing me imagery while I was channeling of what the device looks like that he was using. And so I could see like how it worked kind of, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a triangle, I guess, and what I could sense that it has some holographic components to it.
Yeah, it was like if you imagine something about this length, and the triangle was not like a symmetrical triangle like this. It was a side version of that, and it was long, almost like a prism.
Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting. And I mean, what we have in the genetic labs now on Earth is just, they take your blood test, they put it through a centrifuge, a spinner, and it basically goes through a DNA sequencing system, like computer system database, and it prints out all the mutations that you have in your DNA, or duplications or missense variations, so polymorphisms. And then you get a result printout of that, and that's, you go over with a geneticist over your mutations. There's nothing really, there's some genetic editing where you could fix some things, but it's so new. It's still in the process of being figured out with the CRISPR 9 that can edit mitochondria and mitochondrial DNA. Some point that genetic editing will come into the mainstream and they could edit some things for some mutations and diseases. So
I guess it depends, like, what is important to the geneticists. Is it important to find out where the locality of the genetics are from? Or is it important to find the rare genetic factors which exist within the ATCG, you know, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine, uracil?
Yeah, I guess right now it's not important to know how much percentages of galactic DNA we have. That's not what the mainstream medicine system is doing. That's just more of a curiosity for us, and how much of everything we have and how psychic we are and what our galactic lineage is.
I think that if you take chemistry and you only work on ways to make, say, black powder, for example, then chemistry will become excellent in that area, but they won't be great in creating medicines and all of this. If we take genetics, and the mainstream understanding of genetics is where did my family come from? And that's the desire of genetics, and that's what we'll do. But you can take genetics and take a cloning, you know, angle. You can take genetics and go for galactic stuff. It's all within the minds of the geneticists, really.
Yeah, I guess the basics are, where do we come from here on Earth? Our family histories of countries and such, percentages. The galactic percentages are yet to be determined in that sense. So I guess maybe they'll come up with it in the future. I mean, like the Anshar said, some people can't even wrap their minds around that other extraterrestrial species exist.
That's true.
So it's like, well, I might just be part of that species in my galactic DNA. So it's like wrapping your mind around it. I've had years to wrap my mind around it, and I can read percentages of DNA, how much of extraterrestrial DNA some people have. I could see the percentages and even some of the names of it. So like I could just read myself, and I have a bit of a percentage written out somewhere out there that I have saved. So for me, that's kind of just a quirk of my ability.
Yep. And you know what's interesting? I haven't met many people that can do that, but I also do that. And I was doing it for a couple of years, and I didn't know what it was until I asked someone that was more advanced than myself. And they said, you're reading DNA codes. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I thought I could only do the percentages, but I can also read different DNA codes and mutations in people's body and kind of locate what I need to work on for healing as well. So I could see the big mutations, like the big things. With myself, I saw the warrior gene mutated because Yeah, well, I mean, I've seen hints of it because my dad can go into these weird moods and like rages, like rah, you know, like the warrior. And I have a lot of characteristics of being a warrior, not worrying, a warrior, you know, like going to battle, like prepping for it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of those characteristics. I don't go into rages, but I do have like moods sometimes, which is unusual. Like I swing between different moods, like at the drop of a hat. I'm not manic, I'm not depressive. It's just switching moods quickly, like just switching at the drop of a hat. So I'm like, I probably have the warrior gene. And I looked at my genetics, that particular coding, and it's double positive because my mom has a portion of it and my dad has a portion of it, that it's mutated, active mutation. So I'm like,
I wonder. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, so I said, okay, yeah. And because I was given that gift of the Ancestry DNA kits, I actually was able to download my raw DNA, put it through Genetic Genie sequencer, and look at the methylation genes, and that tells me that that's the MAOA, MAOA gene, that's the warrior gene that's mutated. So that's why my dad has these increased emotions, why I have moods that go up and down. Like, it's part of it. It's not everything. How you're raised also does make a huge difference. How your environment is, how you are. But the genes are a contributing factor to some degree
Cool.
to that.
I think a lot of it has to do with the soul as well. I know for a lot of my past lives, I've been warriors, and it has to do with like integrity and morality, and if you're ethical and honorable, all of that is all related together, and like how you will react in a forced situation. Will you just crumble and put your hands on your head, or will you fight through the situation and persevere? That's the definition of warrior to me.
Yeah, I usually fight like there's, I usually do fight. And I don't mean like pick a fight with a person. If I have tough situations, I'll really work through it. Like, I'll look at it from 365-degree angles and try to find a solution. But I don't go down with the ship. I just really, I work for everything that I want, and I fight for what I want. I just don't give up easily.
Yeah, and I find survivability goes in with that. Like, if you go out in the woods, you just find a way. You're creative enough. You can find a way to do what you need to do to survive. So we have a high survival factor as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how our genetics influence things. And I mean, for most people, ancestry, DNA tests, or 23andMe, it's just a cool novelty to find out where you come from in terms of the continents and percentages of different countries. I mean, for me, the cool part was to get a hold of my raw DNA and take it through a genetic sequencer and just play around with my seeing different genetics, different codes of different genes. So I find out I also have a positive mutation for vitamin D deficiency, which is easily fixable with just taking vitamin D supplements and vitamins. So it's like, just because a person might have a mutation doesn't mean there's like nothing that you can do to improve it, because you can. Certain like methylation genes, you can take vitamins, supplements, omega-3 to help with that. So certain, because it's epigenetics, half of the genes are epigenetics and half of it is like core DNA. So it's fun. It's so fun playing around with genetics.
By genetics, you mean like genetics that are epigenetics are affected by your environment, and some are.
Yes. Yeah. Like if you have mutations in the methylation genes, those are epigenetics. So for certain mutations, you can take vitamins and supplements to improve the methylation and remove vitamin D deficiencies. So that's what I mean in terms of epigenetics.
One thing that I thought was interesting was when I was talking to my crew about DNA infusions, they said that although they do help with other characteristics of like abilities and stuff like that and IQ, they also help turn off genes that aren't beneficial and turn on genes that aren't beneficial that just aren't turned on. So,
yeah. I mean, I often, when I do DNA infusions, I often also do healing if something is genetically like out of alignment. I work on the genetic factor itself to shut it off or turn something on that needs to be improved or adjusted. So it's not just characteristics and traits, it's also healing to a certain degree, like you said.
I think that a lot of healing, well, I know stuff that I've done for myself and helped other people with, it's almost like biohacking. It's going into their energetic template and changing things like, oh, telekinesis, we're just going to dial that up a little bit, turn that knob, or help with whatever, really, whether it's telepathy or channeling, whatever.
Yeah, same. I mean, some people come to me and like, my telepathic ability is low. Can you increase it? And I can look into their body and I say, I can increase it by this percent to make it safe for your body and for you to be more telepathic. I can't always say that I can dial it up to 100% right away, because the human body has certain percentages of what's acceptable for it to increase. at
Yep.
certain levels.
Yep.
So people think, oh yeah, you could just get instant psychic ability increased to 100%. If your body is ready for it sometimes, yes, but not always your body is ready to that percent. So it has to be increased through a few sessions or over a couple of weeks. You just can't instantly go to 100, rev it up, boom.
Yeah. People think that when they open their third eye, they're going to be like telekinetic channeling and doing all this stuff, but it doesn't work that way. It's like we have elastic inside of us, and the being is still kind of here, and he's just saying that this elastic is a light. It's your ability to store the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And it can stretch so far, but if it goes too far and it begins to break the elastic band, it causes burnout within the human body.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have too much energy in our body at once, it can burn us out.
Yeah, so that's why I say to people, really, it depends on how much your body could take at one time of an increase. Might be 5%, 10%, 20, 25, 30. I usually don't go to 100 in one session.
It's too much.
Well, yeah, and the human mind too can go nuts with too much energy in it. So I just...
And sometimes our ego makes us think that we can handle more than we actually can, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, look, it took me 7 years to get up to my psychic ability. And that's not just naturally studying it on my own. It's like studying with teachers and being certified for psychic development, magic, and shamanism.
Yeah, I totally get it. I've been developing for a while myself. And one thing I did notice, here's something, since we're talking about biohacking a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, after I finished becoming a Reiki master, I decided to biohack myself a little bit. And my team was talking to me about opening up my meridians more to help with the transference of energy through Reiki, through my hands. So what I did was I opened up my meridians that ran through my arms, my heart, my hands. And they said it was a double-edged sword, as it will allow you to transfer energy from source through your heart chakra and through your hands and eyes and all of that. But it also allows others to vamp off of you more easily. So it's expanding those straws that exist within you that energy travels through. So I was totally sapped a couple days after that for the next several days. And I realized that I only expand my meridians before I do energy healing now. I don't do it all the time because as an empath, you're always sucking up crappy energy from other people. And other people are taking energy from you as well. So you have to be mindful of that.
Also rotate your shields, like build layers of your shields, expand, rotate, oscillate, because you have auric fields and you have electromagnetic frequencies around you. So I always expand my shields and oscillate and rotate and really work on when I do a lot of energy healing as well and psychic stuff. So I constantly balance my shielding so people cannot feed off of me. So people cannot read my mind, my thoughts, and get information from me psychically. I'm like a closed mousetrap. I don't let people suck energy off of me or get anything from me. I'm just closed. When people try to psychically read me, it's not that easy. Or if they attack me, I will just reflect back at them what they send to me, and it blasts them, not me.
Yeah, the parabola, inverse parabola. It is important also that now that we're talking about this kind of miscellaneous stuff, that people protect their Akashic records as well. I've had people that have tried to get information on me through people that were channeling before, and that can be really invasive, especially if you don't give them permission. So there are ways that you can protect your Akashic records from having people that don't serve your greatest good from accessing them. So that may be something that someone is watching may benefit them.
Yeah, like because the Akashic records have your book of life, right? So you could code your book of life to be shut and only encode it to you and to you only, or give certain permissions and access to psychics who are trying to get into the Akashic Akashic records and read for you. Then you can encode certain permissions into that book of life.
Yep.
Codes and frequency. It's all codes and frequency.
Yeah, I usually try to format it in the way that serves my highest good. I always say that it serves, as long as it serves my highest good. So even if they are nefarious under the surface, but very benevolent on this, on the upfront, then they won't be able to get through because the book knows, right?
Yeah, it's codes and frequency and intention. It's like, I mean, I don't know how do you access the Akashic records?
I've known other people to like say an incantation before they do it.
The one path prayer.
Yeah, but I don't do that myself. I center myself, ground myself, connect with the universal energy, create my field, and then I just get there. I can't even describe how I do it. I start to access information within the field, and I start to receive information. It starts to come forward about past lives and things like that.
I would say I do it the same way, though I just don't call myself an Akashic reader. For some reason, I really don't like that word, Akashic reader.
Akashic.
Ugh. When people say, "Can you be my Akashic reader?" I'm like, I can psychically read your soul and get anything you want out of it, but I don't like to call myself an Akashic reader. I just don't like that term. I don't know why.
I don't like putting myself in a box in any way, shape, or form, but there's no word that describes what we do. Like that exists anymore. We don't call ourselves shaman, even though we do shamanic things.
Yeah.
We don't call ourselves pharaohs, even though we may do some pharaohic things.
Yeah, but on the website, it does say Akashic reader, and it's a term so people can easily understand what you do.
Yes, that's why I put it there.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's how I just tell people that it's psychic reading, and I can access your soul energy and your memories and retrieve what's within your energetic field and even beyond. So I would say I go into the Akashics too. I know what the Book of Life is. For me, accessing mine is a very special way, and it takes gold. It just takes gold filament, and then I can easily access it with gold. For me, it's gold. The gold standard. Yes, I guess so. Something, and it's a very specific ring, I guess, with a specific symbol that's ancestral ring, and I can easily access my Book of Life more easily with it. I mean, just me, my Book of Life is like stacked. Some are bigger, some are smaller, depends how many lifetimes you've had and experiences. That thing is huge. So the ring just helps navigate, I guess, the gold ring. You don't need an object. You don't need anything physical. But for me, so like for when I start teaching people about accessing things psychically, sometimes having a focus, an object that is energetically imbued with something that's meaningful to you, it helps you actually access the Akashic records.
Yeah, it can focus your energies for sure.
Yeah, so I have two things: a huge turquoise butterfly, just a huge bracelet, and that gold ring that does it for me. It just helps amplify ability. But you can do it without it if you're proficient in that stuff. So.
And it's good to have something around to use like that. It can be anything that you want. But even if you have like a silver spoon, for example, you can use that. And every time you're holding the silver spoon, your mind automatically goes to the place like, okay, I'm going to do telekinesis right now. Or I'm going to channel right now, as long as I hold this silver spoon. That was just a random example that's on my table. But it can be anything. And if you keep getting into this state, it's almost like if someone's doing drugs. Whenever they're rolling papers, they know that they're going to get high, right? Mm-hmm. I know it's a weird example, but the more you do something in a certain place, the more adept your body gets at processing that such chemical. So that's why when people do overdoses, it's often in a place that they're not familiar with. even though they're doing the same dose that they've always done, their resistance isn't the same. Their tolerance isn't the same because they're in a different location.
Yeah.
So if you do that with a similar item every time, you build up tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's when I use the gold ring or the turquoise butterfly jewelry. It just takes me to a certain frequency for accessing my book of life or other books. There's Book of Shadows. There's so many different things in the etheric field that you can access.
Yep.
Not just your Akashic records, universal knowledge. So, because I access more than Akashic records, I access universal everything. But I mean, gold is an amplifier because it's an element. It's a periodical element, and gold has been used for eons as part of people's ceremonies for magic and stuff, or an amplifier, or a conductor of frequencies. And crystals, like turquoise is a crystal, and that's in a huge butterfly bracelet. It's huge. So it also is an amplifier of frequencies and energies.
Yep. Then there's a reason why kings and queens wear crowns made of gold, right?
Yeah, exactly, with crystals in it and jewels.
Yeah, to amplify energy from the crown chakra to help.
Yeah. So it's not just that I grab a spoon to do it with. I mean, silver is an amplifier too, but for me, it's gold and it's crystals. So it's very specific to what I need to amplify frequency. So
I love it.
yeah, exactly.
I think that's a good lesson for today. We went over a bunch of different stuff, and
Yeah.
if anything, people are gonna learn about some different things that they have never touched on, perhaps. So
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
I think so. So thank you, David, and thank you, Anshar.
Thanks for having us
Mm-hmm.
from him. And yeah, it's wonderful. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll see you next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.